The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I got a mail, a pretty small mail, but the mail basically says, imagine if DC/Warner Brothers Discovery had used all that money that they spent on the Flash movie on the Flash comic, or kind of to promote comics. And so to kind of catch everybody up, what's going on with the Flash? Well, it's bombing. It's seen as a surprise that it's bombing. So a bunch of things are happening in movies right now. I mean, obviously, the box office has not recovered like people expect. It doesn't. When you say that, you have to be very careful with the words because it's easy to cherry pick information to kind of present the picture you like. Sort of like Fox News has taken to posting a bunch of articles where they're like, Biden gets roasted for his opinion on something or other, or Biden has severe negative reaction to his speech on the economy. And then when you click on the article, you discover that the negative reaction they're talking about is they found like 12 people on Twitter who are, angry with him, which you could find 12 people on Twitter angry about anything at any given time. Now, that doesn't mean, by the way, that Biden's policy doesn't suck. It probably does. Or that, people aren't upset with it as a whole. But the entire article is kind of based around one tiny little construct. So what's going on with Hollywood right now is that movies have not recovered from the pandemic in a predictable way. So you have Avatar making money, you have the Mario Brothers movie making money. So it's possible to make money in Hollywood. It's not like there's no money to be made. But for, a couple decades, Hollywood could reasonably predict a formula of this amount of spend, this amount of marketing, get into this amount of theaters, and you had a 95% chance of success, or at least getting your money back. I don't know about the exact percentage, but a very reasonably high one. And what's happened since that time is it's a lot more unpredictable. Some of those things may or may not work. There's an X factor people haven't exactly cracked yet on what is it going to take to drag people into the movies. And I say for myself personally, I used to go to the movies a decent amount. I would take my kids a decent amount. Kind of even before the pandemic, I was starting to invest in a lot of technology in my house, bigger screen, bigger speakers, get that hue light effect so that while the movie's playing, kind of the lighting kind of reflects the movie and it gives you this immersive experience, etc. And then, through the pandemic, you start to invest in other things like a nicer couch and a nicer place to sit. And, you kind of get a routine going. And so for me, the idea of I'm going to go out to a movie theater has started to equate to it's a downgraded experience. It's, I would have a better experience at home. I'd have a more immersive, better movie going experience there, better food, all that kind of stuff. At home, I could make myself a cocktail or mini, whatever it happens to be. So going to the movie is kind of a step down. And I think that's more or less true for a lot of people. The movie experience has gone backward. And so, it's harder to predict what's going to happen. Indiana Jones, which I think when all is said and done will still make money, open to 70 million, and something like the number keeps bouncing around. And in part, you've got you've got a lot of people who have a vested interest in the information being presented a certain way. I saw a really kind of smart article saying we've moved to a place now where movies are either absolute disaster bombs or $1 billion plus movie. That's it. There's nothing in between. It's either $1 billion plus success or a disaster bomb. People are going to get fired. Now, the reality is there's a lot of in between there. And there exists today. That's still the reality the world works in. Kathleen Kennedy is not getting fired. Bob Iger did not at any point, no matter what some article claimed, that some bystander saw Iger go into Kennedy's office and say, this better make over $1 billion or you're fired. Never happened. Chances are this movie will be a lot of success, pull in some money. It will do well in the aftermarket, be part of their library, all those things. It'll be fine. Is it going to get the highest grossing movie of all time? It will not. Nowhere close to that. But anyway, that's where things are at. So that brings us to The Flash. Now, The Flash is tricky because there is a disappointment to The Flash. DC and in the hiring of James Gunn somewhat said, hey, we've turned the corner and now things are going to work. We believe we've got a guy who is kind of instrumental to the success of the MCU. And now things will be different. Now we've cracked the code. And that was a pretty decent belief on the part of DC. Now, James Gunn didn't do much of the Flash movie. He came in after it was baked, did promote it and everything else. But there's still this kind of feeling like it's all going to work out now. And then they had big cameos, with the original Batman, Michael Keaton, and other stuff. And so we've got, it was meant to work, I think is probably the best way to put it. But it didn't. The movie did poorly. It's actually per Box Office Mojo, the second week drop off, which it was in excess of 75%, marks it as potentially one of the worst drops, and ultimately what will tie out is because that second week, third week drop is an indicator of how well the movie is going to do in the aftermarket. So it's an important step for people to pay attention to, and it is they said it's on track at this point to be one of the worst booking films since Catwoman. Yes, the Eternals sucked. We've had lots of bad movies, but they didn't have the same kind of expectation and immediate drop off. So, should DC, Warner, everybody else just put that money into the comics? Well, I'll give you YouTube needs to have simpler answers, right? Simple answers. Yeah, absolutely. Dump that money into the comics. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Can you imagine what they could have done with that? Getting big, in addition to, pushing better distribution channels, getting some decent people in there in the management team who could push sales and kind of get things operational. I mean, they could have basically walked in and afforded any creative talent they want. They could have done a price drop. All the things that are regularly asked on this channel, they could have done all of them. No problem. And imagine how awesome that would have been. Except the thing is, if they'd put that money toward the comics, do you think that money would have been spent well? One of the kind of mistakes I think people make often is when they say, imagine if the investment had gone there. Yeah, I think, I can't imagine if the investment had gone there. I can imagine it because I see how companies are investing now. And just because you have more money to spend doesn't mean you're going to spend it well. In fact, if history is any indicator, you tend to spend it dumber. Comics, I think it'd be wonderful and magical if a big corporation right now, Marvel or DC, Disney or Warner Discovery, would dump 150, 200 million plus into comics with really smart people behind the wheel. I mean, can you imagine the impact and the what that would do to comics? It's not, to be successful, you need strong, creative, great execution, good ideas. Money doesn't hurt either. Money can certainly help afford those things. You can have really great ideas, and then you can afford the people to go execute on those ideas. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why money is helpful to getting done what you want to get done. But it's not the only thing. And so, again, all the videos that we've talked about over months and months and months and months, there's a lot of ideas there. And if you had really smart people driving those ideas and you had the funding to support those ideas, it would be great. My fear is that if you handed DC, $150 million and said, all right, all on comics, they would do absolutely stupid things like, we're going to put a big billboard up in Times Square saying comics are great. We're going to basically go and we're going to hire James Gunn to write comics. We're going to pay him to write comics because celebrity writers always work out well. We're going to, that's the kind of stuff I think they'd spend the money on. They'd go hire a bunch of extremely expensive people. They'd give a bunch of the senior level management a raise. Jim Lee would find a way to get another, $10 million. And that would be it. The money would be gone. We have a bunch of marketing everywhere, but none of the fundamentals would have changed. The fundamentals being kind of, here's something you could do with that cash. Figure out who really great talent is for your books and give them a 3-year contract with benefits. All of them. Just basically say, we're going to take any of the uncertainty around comics away for 3 years. That's what we're going to do. That's kind of where things need to go. But anyway, so can I imagine? I would love to see that money there. I do believe that money would get blown just as easily, just as quickly, just as effectively as it did for Flash. It's kind of depressing when you come to think of it. Anyway, there's my answer. What about you? What would comics do with tons and tons of money? Would they do good things? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and thanks for listening.